Coming up on Talk is Cheap, ice cream trucks for moving dead bodies, was the Titanic switched with another ship, and huge-ass birds in Illinois. All that and more coming up next. Welcome to Talk is Cheap, where cheap is talk and talk is cheap. With me, as always,
Dan Hohlfeld.
and a guest,
Peter Halbleib.
and I'm Dusty Long, in case we didn't know. We're loving this sign.
Yeah,
it's a blast.
We've been experimenting with the sign in the intro. It's running pretty seamlessly.
It really is.
Smoothly.
It's like, we have a sign, we're so happy.
I should just get you to hold it out there on the road. Well, you're saying it.
Woo! We need the website underneath it there.
I know there's no website. It's not big enough.
Well, if you see a big dumb bald guy down there holding a sign, you know we might be recording.
Off to a great start this evening, gentlemen.
I love it when I
Awesome.
introduce. That's
Love
great.
it.
Right on.
All right, so today I'm going to cover the what the hell is this thing called? Conspiracy theory I read. Sorry, my fault. But this is a conspiracy theory.
Well, we don't consider ourselves conspiracy theories. We consider
No.
ourselves conspiracy truthers.
Oh, okay. I've been getting it wrong this whole fucking time. I'm sorry. Andy should have told me. I mean, come on now. So anyway, I found this the other day. I thought it was interesting. I don't know. I can't really buy into it 100% just yet, but I thought you guys would love this. Bluebell Ice Cream refrigerated morgue trucks joined military convoy in Colorado weeks after listeria outbreak shuts down the ice cream production. What they're saying, this whole thing's about Bluebell Ice Cream shut down because of the listeria. And the government is now using the ice cream trucks.
Budweiser, wait, what was that?
Well, of course.
Help yourself, boys.
See, it says there is no secret that U.S. government transports clandestine cargo in trucks with corporate logos on them.
Oh.
The Budweiser's truck supporting the BLM at the Bundy Ranch.
Okay, I remember that story.
Okay, so I don't remember that story. I really didn't know. Well, what they're saying is that so you have the FEMA camps. You have the government going to go ahead and control us, all this other shit. Well, they're saying that the Bluebell ice cream trucks are going to be used as mobile morgues to transport cadavers without anybody really knowing.
Yeah,
So-
the public's none the wiser.
Yeah. I read this when I was reading about the, what we covered the other week, the Texas military thing going on right now.
The Jade Helm deal?
Yeah, the Jade Helm. This is underneath there because they're saying that Walmarts are being used as mock FEMA camps, and
Yeah.
the Bluebell ice cream trucks
Yep.
are now going to be transporting cadavers and.
So they're just using the trucks. They don't have ice cream in there.
Or cadavers? I mean,
Or Budweiser.
yeah, no. Now, are they
Can
really?
I get some Rocky Road and some fucking blood? Yeah.
I'm guessing that what it is that they're simulating some sort of mass casualty type scenario. And what would you do? Oh, we would partner with Bluebell or we'd partner with Budweiser to transport dead people and body parts and stuff.
Gotcha.
Maybe there was ice cream, in it. And that's a story for another show. The Bluebell ice cream.
You had cadavers and like ice cream sandwiches on top of them to keep them cool.
Well, they did that in Goonies. If you remember that part, anyway.
I thought they're supplying everybody at the Bundy Ranch. It's hotter than hell out at that fucking
Yeah,
ranch.
with Budweiser. And they could have maybe been hauling in bottled water, who knows. But that is kind of weird.
All right, so it says here, one theory that's emerged is that these trucks are being used as hidden in plain sight refrigerated morgues, which can be used to carry bodies out of sight, out of mind. And that the theory ties right in with the recent disturbing email received by ANP just days ago, in which we were warned that this is a very real possibility that U.S. troops might soon have to kill American citizens. Back in 2005, after Hurricane Katrina, the East Valley Tribune published a story called The New Orleans Left to Dead and Dying, in which they tell us the dying goes on at the airport and the airport triage center where bodies are kept in a refrigerated truck. So that's what they're trying to say, is that this is the mock run-up of the U.S. military having to go against its own civilians.
That's a good idea, actually. We got dead bodies, put them in a fucking
Yeah,
ice
what are you
cream
going to
truck or
use? Yeah,
refrigerated truck.
The other alternative is to let them just sit and rot outside.
Which you
suppose.
can't
Right.
do because then you have disease and you have, I mean, everything
panic.
else.
What would you
Yeah.
be more afraid of? The government using Budweiser trucks to keep bodies cold, or the government building refrigeration units for dead bodies all across America?
Right.
So
Yeah.
they're doing this to keep us from
Asking questions.
freaking out. Yeah.
And you know, there's a really nice. I would, if I were to die, as long as it's not the government uprising, you know, us uprising, the government killing me because it's not fair. That's a cool ass curse, you know.
But
you
here's the question: if after they use it for dead bodies, can they still use it for grade A cream then?
You know, that's not a bad. I mean, I suppose you'd have to go through
I'm
one
sure there's
hell
some
of a
sort
rigorous
of
cleaning.
there's some sort of sanitation procedure the government's come up with. I'm sure.
Well, because you know these people that are some, you know, I don't know. It makes sense if you have if there was a Ebola epidemic and people were dying, you can't have them on the street. So yeah, you would use refrigerated trucks. I completely, you know, and ice cream would be great because you got to keep it at 32 degrees or below 32 degrees, which freezes the ice cream. Well, if you put a cadaver in there, then that reduces the amount of decompose.
So cadaver is a fake. That's a
decomposition.
name for a dead body.
Yes, yeah,
See, I didn't know
cadaver.
that.
Yeah, that's what I call them at least. So.
Yep. Well, you learn something new. Yeah.
Abracadabra.
Well, see,
Abracadabra.
like, you know, medical school students, you know, when they do the dissections on dead people, cadavers, they call them.
Okay. Huh.
That's the context, I think, where you most likely hear
I
that.
think I prefer carcass.
Carcass,
There
yes,
you go.
yes.
I don't want to be known as a carcass.
Why not?
What? Because I'm way too cool to be a carcass.
Carcass, yeah. Okay, you guys know that I'm into a little bit of the cryptozoology type stuff, and a lot of that sort of stuff interests me. And basically, you know, cryptozoology is like supposed animals that are unproven but are thought to exist. You know, Loch Ness monster, Bigfoot, things of that nature. But today, I want to talk a little bit about what the hell was trying to carry away small 56-pound child in northern Illinois about 39 years ago, 1977 in Lawndale, Illinois. A giant bird allegedly swooped down into a backyard and tried to pick up a small child, and actually picked him up and carried him 35 feet before it let him go and dropped him again and then took off.
How far up in the air does it go?
Well, just not very far, just a couple feet.
Okay.
It was trying to get off the ground and couldn't, and realized it was too heavy.
Damn.
Martin Lowe is the young kid that was picked up, okay? And I've got this thing, there's his mother. His mother was an eyewitness as well. And on cryptozoology.com, they have a really cool little article about it. We're not going to go into it line by line, but just an overview. July 25th at approximately 5. Oh, I should talk a little bit about what this thing's called. Thunderbird is a cryptozoological creature. It's a giant bird, vulture type. A lot of the history and lore from these creatures comes from like Southwest United States, Mexico. There's some ancient tales about tribes in South America fighting these giant creatures, but they're also spotted along the East Coast and also, as we're about to talk about, in the Midwest too. And it's got a lot to do with major migration routes and when other birds are traveling as well. I've come across some accounts up in Alaska as well of bush pilots coming across these creatures and saying they were as large as my airplane as I was flying next to them. So, you know, we're talking about a 6-foot tall bird here, you know, wingspans, pushing 20, 30 feet. And just basically a prehistoric bird that's potentially still out there. People are still seeing this thing every now and then. So July 25th, 1977.
This doesn't get confused with that Mothman, does it?
Excellent. There are some people that very strongly believe that the Mothman sightings are these Thunderbird sightings. It's a vulture-like creature. And when a vulture is perched, its head does not sit on top of its body, but its head drops down And so with a lot of the Mothman sightings, they say that they see glowing eyes in the chest, which would be very similar to a vulture with his head down and looking. And they talk about Mothman waddling and stuff like that. Well, when you look at a vulture or a bird, so it's interesting that you got to that point already. It stole a little bit of my thunder,
Nice.
but very good and Mothman is very prevalent along the East Coast as well. A lot of, New England especially, there's lots of stories that come out of there with the Mothman.
Yeah.
So I would surmise, rather than a winged moth, half human, that perhaps we're seeing another undiscovered creature that's being mistaken for it. Now, I think we all know with environmental changes that we are at least told are going on in the world today, as well as habitat destruction, just the proliferation of human beings out, that there may be some serious discussion about whether these birds are still alive or about extinct. But nature can surprise us with pockets of wildlife.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're going to talk a little bit about this. Marlon Lowe was the young boy's name. Ruth Lowe, his mother, prepared the summer event of having a couple friends over for a cookout. At approximately 8:05, a gentleman named Cox, who's involved in this story, looks up and sees something in the sky. He catches some movement. At exactly 8:09, this gentleman Cox looked intently at the approaching image. He stands, turns, drops his pipe, and locks upon the flying object. It becomes larger and larger and more distinct. Now he sees it's clear. He sees two birds, large birds, flying and descending on the town of Lawndale. They pass directly over his head, no higher than twice the size of his building. So 50 feet or whatever. And he said the shadow blankets his entire pickup truck. Okay, at the Lowe's now. Remember, Marlon Lowe's a little boy that was attempted to be hauled off by this bird. At 8:10, the Lowe's are in their yard. Marlon comes running around the far south side of the house, screaming bloody murder. Ruth looks up to see an enormous black bird chasing and grabbing at Marlon. Marlon is then picked up and carried a few feet by the larger of the two birds, which are flying wingtip to wingtip. Ruth runs to Marlon's aid, screaming and swinging at the bird. The bird releases Marlon, and they both fall to the ground. So we had two birds. One of them, the larger one, picks up a boy and carries him several feet, and then obviously with the commotion drops him and then flies off. And days pass, and here's a little something about Ruth's statement. Okay, Ruth's the mother. Okay, she's the one who swung at the bird to get him to drop her son.
When you say swung, by hands?
Yeah, she was swinging at...
She have a bat or something?
Yeah, what does it say? It says screaming and swinging at the bird. So probably running at it with arms flailing, I would picture in my mind, okay? So here's Ruth's statement, okay, the mother. Marlon's 56 pounds, okay? Eagle... I'd be interested to know how much weight an eagle can carry. I can tell you it's nowhere near 56 pounds, that an eagle can fly off with. The bird carried Marlon 35 feet. They measured it off, stepped it off or whatever. So they picked up a 56-pound object, carried it 35 feet. Number 3 here, the St. Bernard never barked. Big deal. Who cares? I would just toss that one out. Leave it at 4 statements. The state police came by. They walked around the Kickapoo Creek's open bank for less than 15 minutes and found nothing. Okay, the bird was flying, right? Why were you looking around a riverbank? Anyway, good detective work there, gentlemen. The bird's description had a white ring around its half-foot-long neck. The rest of the body was very black. The bird's bill was 6 inches in length, so 6 inches of bird's bill, and hooked at the end. 3 front and 1 in the back for claws on the feet. Each wing, less the body, was about 4 feet at the very least. They say from beak to tail feather was approximately 4 1/2 feet. Okay, so now we're maybe talking California condor size estimate by a woman who was in a traumatic experience. Mm-hmm. So big bird nonetheless.
Oh yeah.
Okay. More sightings of big birds continue to be reported in Illinois at this time, plus Texas. There's your southwest. John Huffer claims to have taped the creatures near Shelbyville in Texas. Weeks pass. Marlon is now they kind of go into he's getting picked on and all that for doing it. They're getting a bunch of crank callers. And now the Illinois big bird sightings are now being reported in Indiana.
I wonder what some of the calls are like.
Yeah, that'd be. I'm guessing it would be fun on our side to listen to, but maybe not so fun when you're getting them.
Oh yeah.
One thing to think about when you talk about these kind of mysterious creatures like that is that once you start getting a few sightings, then the attention grabbers they start calling in sightings, making stuff up. Joe, next door neighbor Joe, goes and gets a bunch of coat hangers and makes a big black bird out of garbage bags and stuff and throws it over a bridge, and people, and so there you get a lot of noise with that signal as you go through there. Here's a little depiction of the Lawndale Thunderbird, and then there's Thunderbird's alleged photograph on the right. I don't see a 6-inch beak on that thing, so I'm thinking it's just a big bird. I don't put a lot of weight in that.
Yeah, that's tough on that.
Yep. Here was some. I did pull up this old photo. This is of a mock model here, but kind of demonstrating the size of what they think these creatures may actually get to in size.
Huh.
Fuck.
So can you? To put it in perspective, that's a huge bird. You can see from beak to tail feathers that's way bigger than 4.5 feet, which is the Lawndale. But some accounts describe birds as big as this.
Yeah, that looks like a bigger beak on that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that one big, taller than his head, I had talked to a gentleman once when he was just after he gotten his license, and this was, I believe, Oklahoma, and he had claimed to have seen one of these things. He was driving on a back road on a dirt road, and he said when this bird took off, it had to get a running start, and when it flew, its wingtips were licking the ditches on both sides of this gravel road he was on. Now, that's a huge bird, and he said he watched it take up. He had to slow down, and it took off in front of him as he watched it. So, in the history of the planet, I'm sure there's been feathered creatures this big flying around, and there's just some interesting stories. One just right in our backyard, down in Illinois there, and seems to be a.
So has the government been trying to suppress these, or is this just
I think
they're so rare that you just don't see
this
them?
is my speculation on it, that if the population of these would be so small that I don't think there's any real need for any sort of alarm over it anyway. So you're not going to get a lot of people to see them, and this isn't nearly as threatening as, say, the chupacabra that sucks blood from your cattle, or Sasquatch that might rip your arms off or something. So I don't think there would be any active cover-up for this. The old South American stories have them living up high in the mountaintops. So right now, and for us, we don't develop mountaintops, the tall ones. So right now we don't have an economic or financial interest in them, so there's no need to hide it. So they're letting him go, because if you go home and you say, to your girlfriend or wife or whatever, your friends, that, oh my God, I was driving last night on the road and I saw a 7-foot tall bird standing on the side of the road. Who's going to believe you?
Yeah.
It was probably just a turkey vulture, or it was an eagle, or a condor that got too far off its path and ended up 2,000 miles east or something.
Big Bird. It's
Swamp gas.
Halloween.
Yeah, more swamp gas. So anyway, I wanted to share this story because it is a pretty interesting.
I like the
kind of
Mothman
topic.
tie-in. That's really cool. I like that.
Yep.
Now
I
this
thought of
isn't
that
the type of
immediately,
this isn't the type of bird you sit on the park bench and feed.
No, you would not want to do
No,
that.
Probably not.
Yep. Here's a picture of Marlon and his mom Ruth.
And they never changed their story. It said after all the bullshit.
It said years later. There's months past, years past. Marlon and Ruth's story remains the same.
I was just say, how old is he now? Probably.
Marlon. Marlon tells his story on the Discovery Channel, Into the Unknown, in 1997. So about 19 years ago, Marlon went on TV to tell his story as well. So no doubt he was an adult. How old was Marlon at the time of the? He's got to be 50 by now, in his 50s. So.
Do you think he owns birds in his house now? Or do you think it's pretty traumatic?
He was traumatized. He said in here, as they were talking about after the attack, how he was didn't want to go outside.
Fuck, this reminds me of the movie Birds when I first saw that.
His hair had been falling out in lumps.
Jesus.
Won't go outside without a hat on. So,
He's a shotgun by the door.
And here's something that I want to point out too. You see this line here, humiliation takes its toll. Okay? When you report something like this and you go to people, what is their first reaction?
Disbelief.
Joke,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, and they joke.
yeah.
You didn't see it, and they pick on you about it. They make fun of you. So when something like this happens, and not only just with Thunderbirds, with other types of perhaps undiscovered creatures out there, people are so afraid of ridicule. Even in 1977, this guy's getting crank calls now with the internet. Can you imagine? People getting your email addresses and Facebook pages, and I completely understand why people, when they see something like this, wouldn't want to tell anybody.
Oh, I
Certainly
yeah,
not
yeah.
go to a news station or a newspaper to talk about it.
Yeah, hell no.
Because right away they're going to try to, make fun of you or say you're
absolutely.
crazy nuts, give you a drug and alcohol test, and put you on a lie detector test.
What if you're a county judge and you see one? Now suddenly your credibility's called in place. A police officer. Now this guy's seen imaginary creatures, and he arrested me last week for whatever.
Oh yeah.
So there's a big incentive not to say anything at all. You keep your head down. You just play the game and follow along.
Yeah, well, that's too bad too.
So I'll tell you, if I ever see one of these things, I hope I have a shotgun with me, because I'm gonna have a big Thunderbird roast over at my house.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, those are big old drumsticks. Huh?
Oh yeah.
Smoke that.
Yeah, put a big barbecue out.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, keep your
I would
eyes
say
peeled to the
just
sky.
keep it and you give rides on it.
Train it.
mission.
Yeah, right. If we can capture it alive.
Yeah. Put small kids on top of it. Be like, there you go, Bird.
Yeah.
I love it. I really do.
Yeah. So keep your eyes peeled, because this is just one story. This is kind of the more popular one that I found.
Yeah.
Because it's Midwest, and here we are in the Midwest.
Yeah.
But there are some really compelling stories out there about people that have seen these things. Anyway, yeah. It's all you, bud.
All right, my story. Have you guys ever heard that the Titanic sinking might have been a different boat?
No.
I have heard of it. I haven't looked into it at all, but I have heard that. I kind of brushed that off as you've got to be kidding me.
Well, when I was looking for stories on the show,
she went down and
I came across this on you get the top results on YouTube.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll take a look at this shit a little bit and see what it's about. But a little background here, real quick. Titanic had a sister ship called the Olympic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that launched in 1911. Titanic launched in 1912. And they look pretty identical. And that's
Are they both unsinkable, allegedly, or was the Titanic the only one with the...
I would imagine so. They all had the separate hull spaces.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they both did. The Olympic got hit by the HMS Hawk battleship. That ship had a underwater ram.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't think it was much damage until they pulled it into port. There's more damage to it.
Okay.
But I got a few clips here.
with its sister ship, the Olympic, and that it was the Olympic which was sunk deliberately as part of the greatest insurance scam in history.
Oh, insurance scam.
Yeah.
The Olympic becomes the Titanic becomes the Olympic. This is the most common form of marine fraud, even today.
The Olympic had been badly damaged in an accident. Was an insurance fraud the only way for the owners to get their money back?
What
so
we're
they
looking at
sent it out.
basically
Holy
is
shit.
two ships which are exactly the same. To the average person in the street looking at them from a distance, they would simply have no idea which ship was which.
It was a midnight on the sea, the band is fading, Jeremiah.
So there's a little background. Navy ship hit it with an underwater ram. They tried to claim insurance on it, but the Navy inspected itself like the government does, saying it's not their fault.
Oh,
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
yeah.
So they got away with it.
Yeah.
This guy will go through some of the comparison here.
Bruce looked at photos taken in the months before the disaster and was surprised by what he saw.
I found that when I started to compare the photographs of the two ships up until April 1st of 1912, that the Olympic surprisingly was starting to look more and more like Titanic. What should be a case against a switch, we find that the pictures actually start to promote it after a while.
For Bruce, the most dramatic example was the portholes. The Titanic had a distinctive 5-porthole arrangement on the forecastle deck. This feature was missing on the Olympic at the time of its launch. But then, at some point in the winter of 1911, it was suddenly changed to exactly the same pattern as the Titanic.
Oh, that's pretty damning right there.
The reason for this,
you
we
know?
don't know.
Why would you do that?
But for some reason, the Olympic started to look more and more like Titanic. But should be evidence to disprove a switch theory, in fact, supports it.
the sisters were becoming twins. By the spring of 1912, the two ships were almost a perfect mirror image. The plan was primed and ready to go.
So the Olympic still has this big gaping
In
hole
March,
in it.
the
and they
Olympic
just
was
send it
brought
out.
into the
That's why
dry
that
dock in Belfast to have a
iceberg
propeller blade
gets so
replaced.
much damage to it.
It was
There
a job
already
that
was
should
a
have
hole
taken
in it.
2 days,
yeah.
but the Olympic was here for 1 week. It was at this point that many believe the switch was made.
There was only one dry dock that could handle ships of this size. They were racing to complete the Titanic. Only one dry dock. The ships were changing places, perhaps on a daily basis for about 4 days.
Think about that too. You're changing it back and forth.
Yeah.
That's it. That was
How
your
hard is it
opportunity.
just swap some
The
paint
switch
out
would have
on
been
it?
very simple and very quick. What needs to be changed? A few lifeboats, a few lifebelts, a few letterheads and menus.
Basically, trivial stuff. And White Star actually made a practice of making all their portable items interchangeable ship to ship.
Both ships used exactly the same stuff, and the crest on all this was not the name of the individual ship. It was White Star Line. So that was taken care of.
When the rest of the workforce comes back into work on Monday morning, it's like nothing's happened.
If true, it was the greatest sleight of hand in history. On March the 7th, the ship White Star called the Olympic sailed out of Belfast. 3 weeks later, the ship they called the Titanic was ready for its maiden voyage. But White Star had
Do you have
one
any
last
idea
hurdle
who had the vested interest in these ships? What families or organizations or anything?
Yeah,
Like-
I'm actually going to mention that.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, because
Okay.
okay, good.
But this is interesting because this is like, it's fitting some pieces in some other things that I've.
That's
come
more
across,
reason
too.
that I give credence to it, because who actually owns it.
overcome. Titanic's official sea trials.
I want
Normally
to
these
guess, but I'm
things
gonna wait.
have 2 days of sea trials, 2 full days.
Sea trials.
Normally these things have 2 days of sea trials, 2 full days of sea trials. Titanic only got the benefit of 1 short day. Was never run up to full speed or put through any serious manoeuvres at all.
The trials were so superficial, the inspectors failed to notice one fact in particular. The Titanic was on fire, just as Paddy the Pig had said.
It is an established fact that there had been a coal bunker fire burning. It'd been burning from the time the ship actually left Belfast.
The time I fucking left.
That
Jesus.
wasn't known back in the 60s. Well, not widely known. It was only people like me that dig into these things all the time.
Quite extraordinary, this. You can't help being amazed by the slapdash nature of some of the things that went on.
There's one thing that sailors fear more than anything else at sea, more than icebergs, more than sea monsters, it's a fire.
But of course, as far as the inspectors were concerned, they were looking at a brand new ship, and they weren't bothered to look too closely.
They've seen the plans, they know the thing works, it's exactly the same build as the Olympics, so we can sign it off at 12 o'clock and all go for an early lunch. The inspector didn't even go down to the engine room to have a look.
White Star.
So right there, you got inspectors looking at it before it takes off. They assume it's a new ship, so it's like, all right, everything good to go here. You want to look at the engine room? No, you're good to go.
It's a brand new ship, fuck it, right?
And when it took off, 55 main class ticket holders actually canceled their tickets. And so when Titanic actually left, it only left 2/3 full.
Really?
Which back at that time, you're going to want to sell out.
Yeah. But these 55 caught wind something was up, probably.
Here's the big thing. The owner was actually J.P. Morgan.
I knew it was J.P. Morgan.
And that's why I feel like that son of a bitch did something.
And do you if you look into the J.P. Morgan angle in the Titanic, you can see that some of his competitors were on the Titanic, and he stood to commandeer the banking market and make millions and millions of dollars with the death of the people, some of the guests that were on there.
And there's people that were on there apparently that died that were against the centralized banking or
It was the people that were against the creation of the Federal Reserve. Yeah.
And they all happened to die on this.
Which J.P. Morgan made lots of money on that.
But guess what? He was supposed to ride the ship that day.
Oh, yeah.
He canceled last minute due to ill health. I put that in quotes.
Yeah.
The New York Times reporter ran into him in South France, where he was healthy and with his mistress.
Really? Well, I've called in sick before, so I mean, I can't hold that against him. But
that's a hell of a coincidence. Your new boat. You're not gonna ride
but
it
what kind of suspicions would it have been erased had he not had that ticket? He was going to cancel all along. But if you're getting your buddies and some of your enemies on this ship, and you're like, "Oh, aren't you coming on your maiden voyage?" "Oh no, I'll pass. You guys go have fun." That's gonna.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I got my ticket here, first class, and then he's got a cough the next. When it's time to leave, he's not feeling well. Yeah, it's interesting. This is the first I've heard about the Titanic insurance fraud deal. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, this is all brand new to me.
Yeah, I just looked into this last week.
Wrap my head around.
I mean, I read the stuff about the banking people dying, government, this and that, but never have I thought of. This really ties a lot of shit
J.P.
together.
Morgan really killed two birds with one stone. He got his millions back from the failed Titanic.
Yep.
And then he got the creation of the Federal Reserve and eliminated some of his competition in the meantime.
Yeah. I mean, not only was this a great sleight of hand, it was also a great way of killing off the fucking competition.
He's known to do that.
Another interesting point here. Californian was another ship owned by J.P. Morgan. This took off suddenly after the Titanic did. Not many people on there, anything. Sudden departure, and it left with all these like blankets and life jackets and stuff.
Because the Californian was the ship that affected the rescue on the survivors of the Titanic. Yep.
I'll play that clip right now.
Departure was all the more mysterious because she was virtually empty.
Captain Lord has taken the Californian into the mid-Atlantic with no passengers and no cargo, except for 3,000 woolen sweaters and blankets. Exactly what you'd need if you were going to turn your ship into a glorified lifeboat.
So that tells me they didn't want to kill everybody.
The Californian sailed at full speed across the Atlantic before suddenly coming to a halt on the evening of April 14th.
Captain Lord orders Californian stopped. Why rush halfway across the Atlantic just to stop?
Was the Californian keeping a rendezvous? She'd received ice warnings, but no other ship in the North Atlantic felt obliged to stop that night. Certainly not the Titanic, which at that very moment was careering at full speed towards almost exactly the same point.
Captain Smith had ice warnings for most of the day. He was well aware that there was ice ahead.
What do you think about that?
Weird.
Hell of a coincidence, huh?
It's not. It's beyond coincidence. It's
It's
strong evidence showing that they knew that damn ship was going to sink.
When the Titanic actually swerved to miss that iceberg, it threw it way off course. I think they actually planned on picking the people up right away as soon as it sank, but since it went so far off, they had a hard time finding it.
Yep, they couldn't get there right away.
Yeah. And here's what happened when the crew came back into port.
The surviving crew.
Surviving crew from the Titanic.
For the political establishment. As the traumatized crew arrived back in England a month later, it appeared they were being closely watched. More than 700 of the 900 people employed on the Titanic had died, but for the survivors, the ordeal was not yet over.
When the crew gets back to Plymouth, instead of being reunited with their wives and sweethearts, which is what everybody expected, they're held for 24 hours in this damp railway shed, and then they're visited by a very high-up official from the White Star Line and somebody who they believe to be somebody very high up in the government.
Yeah, there's
There's no doubt about it. Basically, the Riot Act was read to these blokes. Do not talk to the press. Do not talk to other people about it.
For some reason, these rarely seen mugshots were taken of each and every surviving member of the crew.
Wow.
Was this the intimidation Paddy the Pig had mentioned in his story?
Tom Hanks.
There's something about the story that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, unless you look at it in the terms that there was actually a cover-up.
Either Paddy Fenton was on the Titanic, or he'd been very close to somebody that was.
One after the other, Paddy's claims had been shown to have at least a basis of truth.
Paddy the Pig's story may have sounded like the slightly odd ramblings of an elaborately named sailor, but it proved remarkably accurate.
But then, in 1998, a new piece of evidence emerged from the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. A 17-ton piece of the wreck which appeared to blow a hole in the entire switch theory.
That's where I'll stop it.
Oh, asshole.
What kind of a prick move is that?
All right, well, something more to talk about later on.
No,
I'm going to be looking into this next time, and I'll...
What these shows do, they do it all the time. They'll get you going on something, and then they'll throw everything they just showed you down the drain.
Yeah.
And what it basically was is the numbers are matching the Titanic numbers, which I would think you could switch that.
With an angle grinder and a...
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's too simple.
I think it was...
You can swap out VIN numbers on cars
Yeah.
and stuff.
I mean, especially if they're doing that dry dock thing, bouncing back and forth, there's no reason why they couldn't switch that.
They could have just replaced that panel.
Yeah.
Just swapped it right
In a
out.
heartbeat.
Nobody would have known it.
Especially if they're doing all the because this has the portholes too. I mean, they're redoing porthole sheeting, so it has that 5.
That's my question. Why would they switch the portholes on the Olympic to look exactly like the Titanic? And then you got all these other coincidences?
Yeah, exactly right.
That's weird. The Californian is a huge one there, man.
Exactly.
That is really true. And then, of course, you had the portholes here. So, yeah, if you're going to change it from being 3 or 4 to being 5, you'd pull that whole section out, put a whole section in, and that's what the Titanic's known for, and they're pulling this piece up, and it's about the same thing. Well, then, yeah, you're going to have the same fucking numbers on it. So
Yeah, when you put that new one in, it would have just had the same numbers. Yeah.
But they were also talking about the propeller was the same, and they were saying,
They can
maybe it's
swap that
universal,
too,
but
yeah.
they said they do it specifically for that boat. But I mean, really, how hard is it to change the number?
Yeah, I mean,
it isn't.
Seriously, it's not hard.
No. I wouldn't think. I'm not an expert shipbuilder, though, so...
Right.
But even then, like they said, those boats are going in and out of that damn dry dock.
Well,
and
all you
back
gotta
and
do
forth.
is you keep doing this, and all of a sudden you just leave one in there for the next time, and
and
then we're switched.
Switched again, and no one's gonna know the damn difference.
Yeah.
So, and then the other one already had damage. Then you have to you'd have to figure that they're doing something to repair that damage to a certain degree.
Yeah, well, to get her back out floating.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
And if something were to if they got rammed and something would have came back under the wash and hit that propeller, well, then you'd probably have to replace the propeller, wouldn't you?
You would think that, because they've located the wreck.
Yeah.
And you would think that you'd be able to see like 2 separate damage areas, but the Titanic itself split pert near in half, right? That would be tough to discern, but yeah, that was crazy. Another good one.
That's really good.
I didn't think anything of it, and I was like, well, let's check this out. And
this is all new. That's really cool
Yeah.
shit. Well, I like that.
Yeah, that was good.
That's the thing, like, if you're thinking about, like, how many people would be involved on that, and then, we got fucking Area 51, and they can keep a secret in there for quite a while, too.
Yep.
So.
That's true, yeah.
And they still are keeping secrets.
Yeah.
All they did is they kept the existence a secret. Now they're just keeping what's going on in there a secret.
Yep.
There'll be a whistleblower at some point in time.
Nobody will believe them.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Unless, of course, they come on the show because we're so credible.
Absolutely.
With our couple of
we nothing but facts here, folks.
That's right.
So.
All right. I want to thank you very much for tuning in to the show. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'm Dusty Long.
Dan Hohlfeld.
Pete Halbleib.
And tune in next time. Thanks.
I know what happened. The thing froze.
We need
Again.
damn it all.
Way to go, asshole.
This never happens on a social fix. The government knows what we're doing here. How many times has this happened during a social fix? Yep. How many times has this happened to Dano on Talking Street?
Is it a conspiracy?
Second or third time now.
It is a conspiracy.
Yeah, second time for me. We had to redo it last time.
He keeps on talking about how bad PC is, right?
The PCs don't like him.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Everything has feelings.
He's actually got
just
a
get a
contract
fucking-
from Mac on the side to
I might just have to get a Mac Mini. This is bullshit.
See, he's like so angry, but it works fine for
Yeah,
us. I
so-
think it's the government.
So Mac just becomes the solution.
I know
Yeah.
it wanted to update, but
Solution
I
is
postponed
Mac.
it.
Mac is the future.
Let's start a show called Dusty and PC or Ethan and PC.
All about headaches.
We'll have like Dan and Mac
Yeah,
here,
it could be like-
Ethan and PC there, and I'll just be the mediator between the two going, no, I
We
don't
could just
care.
do a complete spin-off and just do a joke one, and I bet they would get more hits like that.
Oh, yeah.
Just sitting there typing in this blue screen. Oh, guys.
It's just typing into a blue screen in front of me. You should do something with puppets.